And welcome back to the booth here at the Magic World Championship. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, joined by Paul Cheon. Welcome, Paul. And we are on the verge of starting the first match, of which we're going to be playing 7 today. 3 of Booster Draft is which we're going to kick things off with here. First player, Sam Black from the United States. He tested with Josh Utter-Layton, Jerry Thompson, and Martin Jůza. You can take a look at him there. He was a top pro point earner to get here and get his seat. He has played in this event in the past as well. In fact, even making the top 4 at one point. So Sam Black back for blood. We'll see how he does. His deck is pretty sweet. We'll talk about that in a minute. His opponent is Martin Jůza from the Czech Republic. He was our draft master. He had the best draft rating from the Pro Tours of the last season. That earned him his seat here. And we got a chance to watch him draft, so we get to see that deck in action here as the players are seated and ready for that first round of action. And of course, this is where the butterflies come in for the players right as they're getting ready to go.
Oh yeah, this should be a good one. I was talking to Sam. He was super happy about his deck, which is not the sentiment that I got when I talked to a lot of other players in this draft. So, you know, he kind of flashed me his deck, and it looked really, really sweet. Okay,
well, we've got Decklist ahead of us, and we can sort of set the stage as the players look like they're ready. So, for those people who are watching live with us, we got to see Martin Jůza draft. He ended up drafting a pretty solid-looking green-red deck, though the draft didn't go great for him. He didn't, you know, get super lucky with his opens, and he had to hem and haw a little bit in the first pack. It was a tough seed.
Yeah, it was a really tough seed. I think, you know, he was definitely fighting some other players for cards. For example, he's red with not a lot of good red cards in his deck. I think he just early picked some removal effects. Whereas Sam Black told me that he first picked the Shapers of Nature, got a third pick Shapers of Nature, and he was like, all right, well, this is easy. I'm going to go into Merfolk. And one very notable thing about his deck, he's got 3 copies of what I believe to be the best common if you are in Blue-Green Merfolk, which is River Herald's Boon.
Okay, well, let's talk about that right now, Paul, because just in the first 2 turns, this game could be over. Look at what's happened here. It was Cobbled Wings to start things off for Martin Jůza. A very slow start for him. Finally finding Ravenous Daggertooth here on turn 3, but Sam Black came out of the gates very quickly with Commander Speaker, and you can see it coming here. That was River Herald's Boon on the Speaker, which was already a 2/2, picking up both counters. It's a 4/4 attacking. Martin's at 12.
He attacked for 4 on turn 2.
Yep, he sure did.
That was totally absurd.
Just jammed it. Thrash of Raptors is the follow-up play for Martin Jůza. It is a 5/3 as it sits, and that could be a way for him to stabilize this board as it can trade off for that Commander Speaker. But if Sam has almost anything, that won't be the case.
I think Martin at this point is probably so far behind that he kind of has to block here. Yeah. Sam is representing multiple combat tricks. He could have, again, River Herald's Boon. He could have a Run Aground, which he could use to target the Daggertooth, which would then make the Thrasher Raptors a 3/3, and then he would just lose the dinosaur. So Martin is very concerned about all the various cards that Sam could have, but I think he has to block here.
He does block here, and it works. The Speaker dies, and Sam says, sure, go. So that's about the best case scenario for Martin Jůza. He knew he was taking on some risk with that block, but it looks like he got away with it, and he may be able to stabilize this board at 12 life.
Yeah, there are situations where you can afford to take the damage, but again, Sam attack for 4 on turn 2. Marin does need to kind of stop the bleeding here, and so he basically had no choice but to block there. And Sam is a little bit flooded here, but he does have a pretty nice mana sink in his hand. Taking a look at Sam's hand here, he's got a few lands, but it looks like he's got a Thundering Spineback as a mana sink.
Right, that's perhaps one of the best mana sinks in the format. Now, the format's not known for that. There's not a ton of them. Tishana's Wayfinder here for Jůza, and he sees, well, look at that, another Tishana's Wayfinder. He's going to get the counter either way. The question is, does he want to draw that card next turn, or would he rather put it in his graveyard?
I imagine he's probably just going to keep this.
It looks pretty good on a board against the 2/2.
Right. Not only that, his deck is just kind of full of a bunch of random 2-mana 2/2 creatures, so this can't be too much worse than a random draw. Ooh, and a Flying Dinosaur.
Yeah, I mean, Patera Tooth? I don't know. Anyway, it's getting in for 3. And we have more exploring happening here. That's a Merfolk Branchwalker from Sam Black.
He's got 2 copies of that in his deck as well.
Yeah, now he did hit a Jungle Delver, and then, well, you know, it depends on how Sam sees this game going. He may want to keep. Also, it can be a low-impact play, given that he has a lot of place to put his mana with that Spineback, and he may just bin it instead.
Yeah, I don't think he wants it. I mean, he doesn't really have a thing to do next turn. Oh, so he is opting to keep it because, you know, he is going to have 6 mana next turn. He can play the Jungle Delver and use all his mana to make it into a 2/2. And if Sam sees this game kind of going a little bit late, you know, maybe he wants that additional mana sink. I was just thinking he does have that Thundering Spine back. Red-green does not have a lot of removal effects to deal with a 5/5 that's on the board. One of the most common removal effects being Unfriendly Fire. There is also the Fire Cannon Blast, though, which you can use to raid to get rid of the Spine back.
And there's Tishana's Wayfinder for Martin Jůza. That's the one that he had kept on top.
We did talk about how, Martin can kind of just choose what he wants to do with the Wayfinder, and right now he just he just needs 3/3s, so you get 3/3s.
Yeah, he sees an Ixali's Keeper, and he's going to keep that too. So, you know, Martin has said, I just want action. I just want more spells. And it looks like Sam Black is playing for the long game, and we know that's because of that Thundering Spine back in hand. If he can get that thing online and producing 3/3 trample dinosaurs, which are effectively 4/4s as they sit, he knows that he can dominate the late part of this game, where it matches up particularly well against what Martin's done. Now, the one problem that Sam does have is flying. That is an issue. That Spineback does not do anything against a flyer, and he's going to need to find an answer for the Cobbled Wings, which has become a real annoyance here.
Wow.
And there's Rampaging Ferocidon, which also puts a crimp in the plans there of Sam Black as well.
There it is.
As the keeper, but there it is. And now...
Oh, the trigger. Okay, I was like, there's no way the Draft Master is going to forget a damage trigger. Yes, I mean, it's currently a super close game here.
Right, because the other thing that we have to remember with Thundering Spineback is that it's not just a dinosaur production factory, it's a 5/5. It hits hard. Like, Martin's down to 12, and he does need to consider how his race actually plays out from here, given that Sam Black can start attacking.
Yeah, this is a super close situation. It looked like Martin drew land number 6. If he does get up to land number 8, he can use the Ixali's Diviner to give one of his flying creatures +5/+5, which could kind of help him out in the race here, because he does have the ability to kind of chump a few turns. So it's really close. Ixali's Keeper, rather. So yeah, Martin can get in for 3 here, put Sam down to 7, and then, I mean, potentially double block the Spine back. But I think currently Sam Black is slightly ahead of here.
Yeah, this is a super critical turn, though, and you can see that Martin's really taking his time with it, because this is the turn that is going to dictate whether we're in a full race situation here between these two players, or and who can win that race. Of course, Martin Jůza would prefer to find himself in a race from this scenario, as he's looking at that Thundering Spineback and knows, well, I'm not going to be able to beat that card in the long game.
So it looks like he opted to equip the wings onto the Ferocidon.
That's right. And
one thing to note, though, is the Ferocidon says players can't gain life. So he cannot actually use the Enrage trigger off the Sword Tooth.
Right, that would be the reason why you'd think he would do that, so that he could block with the Sword Tooth and get the life gain. But as you said, quite astutely there, Paul, that Ferocidon says no.
Right, the Dagger Tooth.
A Dagger Tooth,
right,
yes,
right,
yes, yes.
So Sam looks like drew another land here. Sam does have the ability here to attack and eat both of those creatures and kind of put himself into a racing situation. If he does that, that puts Martin on only the Ferocidon on the battlefield. Sam can make a 3/3 token, but he'd go down to 6, which means that's a 2-turn clock from the flying Ferocidon. So.
That's right. Yeah, this game started out strongly in Sam Black's favor and has really kind of evened up here at this point. Martin Jůza currently slightly ahead, but you know, we're talking about one depth of desire, one anything from Sam could easily change that, and Sam's decided in.
Yeah, you got to be aggressive here, as Marin is the one just attacking every turn with an evasive creature. So Marin also has an interesting decision here. What does he want to do? Does he want to just put, for example, the Dagger Tooth in front of the Weaver, or does he want to double block the Thundering Spineback? At this point, again, he's in a situation where he can't really play around a combat trick or a bounce spell or anything like that.
Yeah, I think he also doesn't assume that Sam has one at this point, given the way that the game's played out. There was a turn where if Sam had one, he would have seen it.
Yeah.
And Sam's just played lands ever since.
I think the double block on the Spineback makes the most sense here. Assuming you're not playing around a combat trick, if you do that, if Sam drew nothing, Sam can make a token, but that'll put Sam down to 6 life, and that's a 2-turn clock for Sam. For Martin, rather. And this is going to put Marin down to 10, but Sam's going to go down to 6. So Marin actually wins the race here because he just needs to get into attacks with the Ferocidon. Yeah. And he cannot gain the life. A drawback.
Martin says, yeah, I know. But importantly, that Ferocidon did do the 1 damage thanks to the creature entering the battlefield. And as you said before, Paul, that's a 1-turn clock.
And Sam can't even draw a menace creature, a flying creature here because the Rampaging Ferocidon does have menace.
And that's going to do it, Martin. Jůza takes game number 1 from Sam Black. Started out behind, perhaps a panic situation there, getting hit for 4 on the 2nd turn of the game. But he was able to come back from that one. So great work from Martin Jůza to keep his composure and get there. We've got a lot more Magic lined up for you today from the World Championship. We'll be back right after these messages.
Ixalan is available in stores. Brave the unknown by exploring the lush jungles of Ixalan. Discover a world filled with mighty dinosaurs, treasure-hunting pirates, graceful merfolk, and sinister vampires. Visit Ixalan.com to find out more. Always know the right play to make? Show off your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. With over 2,000 game stores worldwide running PPTQs, find an event near you at magic.wizards.com/PPTQ.
Welcome back to the feature match here at the Magic World Championship. We're in Boston. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Paul Chion, and we are ready to head right back down into the action here. As you can see, players are presenting decks. Game 1 went to Martin Jůza.
Very scrappy victory.
It really
Cobbled
was.
together some victories here.
He certainly did. Cobbled Wings, ended up being pretty important there. I think one of the storylines, though, of that game was we have to recognize that while Sam Black did have an explosive start, he did end up drawing a lot of lands.
He did.
And that made it tough for him to really mount much of a defense as the game kind of turned in Martin Jůza's favor.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons why Sam also decided to keep that hand is his deck actually does have a lot of mana sinks. So he just wanted to make sure he can curve out. He's got multiple copies of the River Shaper's Herald. Is that? Yeah, and he also has the Thundering Spineback. Oh, sorry, the Shapers of Nature. Shapers of Nature. Right?
Oh, he has two Shapers.
Two Shapers in it because he first picked one and third picked one. He also has a Verdant Sun's Avatar. And he's playing, we saw it go late in the draft, Growing Rights of Itlimoc in his deck. I haven't really seen that played a lot in Limited.
I saw it played early in the format and then a little less later. So.
Right.
All right, there's that Branch Walker once again for Sam. I couldn't quite see what the card was that he put back on top of his library, but he did keep it, whatever it was. And he put it back pretty quickly, too, so he must have liked that one.
I think it might have been another Branch Walker.
That would be absurd. Really, Branch Walker has been super impressive.
Yeah. And we talk about how good Tishana's Wayfinder is in Limited. This is just basically one cheaper for a very similar effect.
Well, it was a Vine Shaper Mystic,
wow.
as it turns out, which is perhaps better in this scenario. Martin, by the way, with Lightning Strike, has told Sam, I'd like you to target, and then I'm going to decide if I'd like to respond.
I imagine he's going to target the Branch Walker there because he doesn't want to take 4 damage here.
Yeah. Still leaves a 2-4 behind, though, for Sam Black.
Yeah, very, very strong card.
Definitely. There's a Tillinolli's Knight now for Martin Jůza, who passes his turn back to Sam.
Sam's hand is pretty loaded here.
Xali's Diviner. You can tell that Sam's on a little bit more of the slowdown plan here.
And is he opting to keep this? No. He wants lands.
Yeah, you can. That's exactly what that should say to Martin Jůza.
Yeah.
Pretty even here in the early stages of the game.
Yeah, it is interesting that Sam opted to. He missed a land drop that turn, right? He opted to keep up blue mana there, because if he drew an island, he could have played the island and represent the River Herald's boon that he has in his hand. So
yeah,
he might have wanted to represent Dive Down as a combat trick.
Also, he might just have a blue spell that he wanted to cast if he hit something else, right?
Yeah, he could have had a 2-mana blue spell. But I did see a River Herald boon in his hand, so I just
see.
thought maybe.
And by the way, there it is.
Okay. Does Martin have a combat trick here as well?
Right.
One of the premier common combat tricks if you are Merfolk. And he does.
He has Crash the Ramparts, so that is going to take care of that Diviner. Pretty predictable there, Martin knowing about River Herald's boon and not wanting to get blown out. He was only blocking 1 damage as it stood, and losing his Tillinolli's Knight there would have been a pretty disastrous play for him.
All right.
And he's going to play a Ceratops here, and that is going to line up an attack for 3 here with the Knight.
Yeah, it lines up pretty nicely against the 3/5 that's currently on the board. Now Sam's going to probably look to play some defense here.
Yeah, and he's got one of the better defensive cards here as well.
Yeah, we've got a Grazing Whiptail on the battlefield.
Yeah, the Grazing Whiptail's been really impressive as a 4 toughness, which seems to be a pretty critical toughness in the format, and then also reach. There are a number of annoying small flying creatures. Now, Martin won't have those in his deck, but the type of cards that you'll see in the format, Grazing Whiptail does a very good job against.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic body. We talk about how this format is really aggressive. There's a lot of good 2-mana creatures that want to get in there. You have the Tillinolli's Knight, which becomes a 3/3 on attacking. So I think 3/4 is actually kind of one of the perfect sizings you could have if you want to play like a defensive creature.
Yeah, you know, Grazing Whiptail looked like one of those whatever type cards,
yeah,
and it's just performed really well.
Yeah, I think the card is quite strong.
Spike-tailed Ceratops looked like one of those cards and kind of has been.
yeah.
You know,
Spike-tail, like you kind of know what you're getting. You're getting a 5-mana 4/4.
Right.
It is a filler card.
It is, but you know that's mainly just because it's 5 mana, right? Like that's a slot where you're going to have a lot of competition, and you don't want that many 5-drops in most of your decks, so you're going to be pretty picky about it. But the 4-mana slot, you know, you will see.
I like this attack from Martin. He's, kind of putting some pressure on Sam. It's like if Martin does have a combat trick, Sam has the potential to get blown out here. Because Martin could have any number of combat tricks, but Martin also wants to clear the way. He wants to get that Grazing Whiptail off the board because he does have a Colossal Dreadmaw in hand, and he doesn't want Sam to have a bunch of creatures to be able to double block that creature.
Yeah, this is a play that you'll see high-level players make all the time, which is they will strategically trade off cards because the follow-up cards work better against a less cluttered board, and that's exactly what happened here.
Right.
Another Merfolk Branch Walker there for Sam Black.
Sam does have some nice top end here. He's got a Thundering Spineback and a Verdant Sun's Avatar in hand. So if he can just kind of survive the first few turns, things are going to be turning around for Sam. Just needs to find that 7th land.
So here comes the Colossal Dreadmaw here for Martin Jůza, but Sam doesn't have any reasonable blocks, so he just says, all right, guess I'll take 6.
Ooh, and a Ferocity. And Sam actually really wanted to hit a spell off that Branch Walker so he could potentially double block the Dreadmaw, but because he drew a land there, he only has 5 power on the board.
So he needs to survive this turn.
Right. But
And
that
then he can
Ferocidon
go
was
in.
also huge. The Verdant Sun's Avatar is not going
It
to gain
shuts it
Sam
down.
life.
Wow, Rampaging Ferocidon has been nothing but pain here. It even hurt Martin Jůza.
Right, it did. It did.
It's truly on a rampage, but for this game, it is really going to put a dent in Sam Black's long game plan, because when you have the 2 cards in hand that Sam has, and you're facing in a deck that's even remotely aggressive, it is unbeatable. Verdant Sun's Avatar lets you gain life equal to a creature's toughness when it enters the battlefield on your side. And you know, he has a 5/5 that makes 4/4s.
Right.
Like, just, he doesn't even need to draw any more cards for the rest of the game. He starts he goes gain 5, next turn gain 5, next turn gain 4, 4, 4, you know, forever.
Okay, so Marin is actually kind of deep into tank here. He's got a dual shot in hand, and he's considering whether or not he wants to use the dual shot just to deal 1 damage to a Branch Walker, as the Rampaging Ferocidon has Menace. If he does use the dual shot, he can attack for 9.
He's going to play.
So Martin first leads off with a creature to see if Sam has some kind of counter magic, because I think Martin is also concerned about the existence of perhaps like a flash creature that Sam could play. That has to be what he's playing around there.
So it looks like Sam's going to lead with his spine back. He's going to take a damage. He's going to drop down to 10.
Yeah, Martin's conservative play of not attacking that turn could prove to be very costly here, because that's a lot of damage. That was a lot of damage. And Sam had nothing.
Was he worried about the sailback, or?
There was a sailback that he passed in the draft, and there was also the flyer that he could have had as well.
Yeah, the Windstrider also a possibility.
Yeah. So yeah, not attacking there, I think Sam may have stabilized here.
Yeah, and it's a land off the top. Martin does use the dual shot, though.
Martin used the dual shot, and he drew the 8th land. Now he can use the Ixali's Diviner.
Yeah, and this is a huge threat now for Sam Black. It's +5/+5 and trample, and it's Ixali's Keeper here.
Keeper.
Yeah. Well, Diviner's a card, too,
Yeah.
to be fair. We are, by the way, very early in the format.
Ixali's got a lot of 2-mana friends.
Yeah. Traditionally, we would be at a GP right now.
Right.
with the big premier level event another week away, and that's been a really interesting story to follow for the players as well, who have had to adjust to this new format while also figuring out their constructed decks all in the same time.
How do you block here? There's just an on the board +5/+5 trample combat trick on the board.
They're gonna both have trample.
Also, Sam Black's completely tapped out.
Doesn't matter which way.
Oh, Martin's basically saying you're dead on board.
Yep.
Let's see, we got the 3 here.
He's taking 3 going to 7 regardless, and then they'll both have trample is what Martin Hughes is saying, so it's going to be, let's see, what is that, 8 and then 6, so 14 more trample damage.
All right.
So he's going to have to give it to the knight to give that trample.
And that'll turn it into an 8/8. So that's 3 damage, 6 from the Ferocidon, and 1 from the Colossal Dreadmaw. So it's actually not that on board, but it would put Sam without any creatures on the battlefield, right?
Yeah, and also the Rampaging Ferocidon's still alive.
Yeah.
And with Sam at 3 life, and he's going to have to play creatures.
Right. And normally this Verdant Sun's Avatar would be a nice card to play just because of the life gain, but the Ferocidon
got the job done. Wow, and
life.
that did it. Martin Jůza defeats Sam Black in 2 quick games. I can also tell you that Owen Turtenwald has won his match 2-0 over Martin Mueller while we weren't watching. Owen is playing a relatively solid-looking black-white vampire deck. You know, I had a quick chat with Owen after he was done with his deck build just to sort of take his temperature. Hey, how are you feeling about your deck? And, you know, he said, well, I didn't get any awesome rares. Right, that didn't happen, and I was kind of hoping for that. But he says if he's gonna be in the kind of I've got a bunch of commons and uncommons style deck, he says he thinks that this one's probably pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's kind of similarly to how Martin kind of felt about his draft too. Just a bunch of solid commons, decent mana curve, and combat tricks.
All right, well, let's jump in on William Huey Jensen playing against Sam Pardee. Looks like they're just about ready to rumble here as well. Well, it looks like we're entering game 3 here, Paul, so we get to see a decider between these two.
It looks like William Jensen on the aggressive red-white deck that Martin Jůza was looking to draft.
And that does make life difficult, given that he was sitting right next to Martin in the booster draft.
Oh,
right?
he was the one passing to Martin.
He was. Yeah, it was William Jensen passing to Martin Jůza. Martin was passing to Javier Dominguez. So,
So
yeah.
Maybe that's why Martin's draft was a little bit rough.
That's right. And we saw the good red cards in the first pick for Martin and the second pick, and then they were gone.
Yeah, there were 0 red cards.
And now we know why. They were all going through Jensen.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he did make life difficult for him here. We got the deck list as we see Sam Pardee taking a mulligan. I'm just taking a quick look.
And it looks like Sam Pardee is on black-white vampires.
Oh, yeah, he's quite aggressive here. A pair of Nest Robbers, a couple of Brazen Buccaneers. You know, these are all haste creatures that can help Huey get out to a quick start. Frenzied Raptor. Oh, he did get a Rowdy Crew.
Rowdy Crew, nice.
That's the mythic rare. That one, hopefully, we'll get a chance to see on camera. It's a pretty cool card.
My litmus test for how to judge a good red-white deck is how many Territorial Hammer Skulls.
Due. He's got 2.
Yep. That's a great deck.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. If you're looking to be red-white aggro, it is the best common, and that's where the Huntmaster went.
So there's
it was very close to tabling.
It almost made it.
It was so close to tabling for Martin.
So this will be interesting to see how Huey can take advantage of it, though, because he doesn't have as many.
Wow.
Oh, hello, friends!
What was that?
Wow!
Oh,
so he
my
plays
goodness.
2 dinosaurs in the first, in the third turn here, and since the Hammer Skull has that ability, gets in for all the damage.
Is this like a standard deck almost? Is that what's happening here?
It does kind of feel like it.
He was like, I don't need these lands. My board's good enough.
Looks like Sam's going to play discard here, which prompts Huey to discard 2 planes, though I don't even know how bummed out he is about that, given the fact that he's kind of already dumped his hand on the table.
Yeah, discard effect's not quite at its best against kind of the aggressive decks, but it looks like Sam wanted to get a little bit of value there. Does Sam have a 2-mana pirate here? Because that would be really nice with this captain, as it requires another pirate to be on the battlefield so that you can make a 2/2 menacing pirate.
Well, I would love to see a Chupacabra pirate, but that is not what that is.
Chupacabra pirate.
Yeah, but it's a beast horror, so that is not going to satisfy
the pirate's
that.
pets.
Yeah, it's a pet. There you go.
Instead of a parrot, I just have a Chupacabra.
And this is Jensen forcing a trade from Sam Pardee with Sam's probably best card.
Right, and even if Sam plays an Explore creature here, there's no real creature on the board that is all that relevant here. The Hammer Skull and the Menacing Brute are the cards that are the most threatening here. Oh, wow. But he does have a Dark Nourishment in hand?
Yeah, and that can be the type of card that can completely change a race back towards Sam Pardee's favor, away from Jensen. It looks like he's going to hold off on using it this turn.
That's really interesting.
And assuming that he doesn't die, he'll be okay. There's Brazen Buccaneers, though he did miss. And I do say miss. He hit a land, and he does get to draw it, but he would have preferred more. The Chupacabra's going to get tapped by the Territorial Hammer Skull. We're going to see Treasure Map activated here from Pardee.
Yeah, so Treasure Map, a nice late game card, does give you card advantage. Again, he does need to survive, but he does have that Dark Nourishment, which does allow him to kind of stabilize a little bit. I imagine he's likely going to try to fire that off on his main phase to play around cards like Vampire Zeal.
Yeah, this is a huge turn, though, because Sam now has to use it this turn. He's down to 2.
Yeah.
And if Jensen can sneak in some extra damage, he could just win the game.
Okay.
Well, he's needs to have a land here, and he did hit it because you can see that he's got a treasure sitting there.
Did he know about the land? No, right? He drew for a turn because he really needed to hit the land to play the Dark Nourishment.
Yeah, and
that was perfect. I mean, that felt like it might have been a bit of a gamble there because if he didn't hit the land, that Hammer Skull would have been able to attack again. But now he's totally stabilized. Yeah. He's at 5 life.
Yeah, the Headstrong Brute does not have Menace right now. And all of a sudden, the table has turned back in Sam Pardee's direction. Jensen, you know, his deck is very all in. It's just attack, 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 put a bunch of haze creatures out. And now Jensen's going to have to start thinking about some of the cards that are still left in his library that might be able to get him there. One of the cards that jumps to mind, Paul, is Unfriendly Fire. That can do 4 damage to Pardee, who's at 5, meaning that if Jensen can find a way to sneak in just a single damage, he may be able to draw Unfriendly Fire and make it work.
Sam upkeep scrying, opting to keep. Wow.
Uh-oh. Call to the feast here for Sam Pardee, and this is yet another step to him taking control of this game because those are all life-linking vampires, and as far as combat goes, it's just not really on the table for Jensen at this point.
I wonder if William's thinking, hey, Martin, could I just maybe borrow that Rampaging Ferocidon?
Yeah, just for a minute.
just for a couple turns.
So it looks like Jensen's going to fire up the Dreadnought and attack in for 4, but Pardee's going to chump block with a Vampire token. And that's once again going to pad his life total, effectively 5 life he got there.
And he's going to now upkeep Scry, flip the treasure map, get 3 clues, and then he can use he can cash in those clues to draw cards.
Treasure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, the treasures.
They do remind me of clues in this spot, They really do. I mean, you know,
they're effectively clues.
He will be cashing those in for cards as we see the game go further. And this is kind of the death knell here for Jensen. Now Pardee's attacking.
Yeah.
He feels solid enough
Sam's
here.
like, you know what? I can attack with this 1/3 flyer. I think I'm safe.
And that is not what Jensen wanted to see. Another Plains off the top of the library. Earlier in the game, Pardee played Heartless Pillage on Jensen, forcing him to discard 2, and he's kind of kept a few cards in hand potentially for a second copy of it. But all he can do is keep chipping away with the boat here.
Yep. And Sam doesn't really have a great block here, and he opts to keep the lifelink token, so he might have some Vampire Synergy cards in his deck. Cards like Anointed Deacon, for example.
Yeah, that comes to mind for sure.
All right, here we go. Cashing in a treasure. What do we find?
A couple of lands, but he did draw a spell for the turn. Was it an Anointed Deacon?
Is this the Anointed Deacon? It is!
Oh, he actually drew it!
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Sorcery? Magic.
Yes. So he's going to target one of his 1/1 lifelinking vampire tokens, which is going to make it into a 3/1. And this one is falling apart in front of Jensen's eyes because now even lines of play that include some of the cards that we talked about earlier, Unfriendly Fire, those are not going to work anymore.
Yeah, it's just it's getting a bit too far out of reach now. Sam's going to go up to 9 life here after gaining 3 life from the token. Okay, so he's casting Sure Strike to block the token so that Sam can't gain life and keeping him at 6. So William might be playing to kind of some of the outs in his deck here. Ooh,
he found
not
Pious
bad.
Interdiction. No great targets for it. The Anointed Deacon's the best card, but that trigger will still happen even if it does fall under that enchantment.
Right. I almost might be tempted to actually put it on the lifelink token.
Yeah, that's exactly what Jensen does. And you know you're not in great shape when you have to do that, but hey, he gets to keep attacking, so he's going to once again crew that Dreadnought and attack with it.
And that's the thing. This is not like the most intuitive play. Most players, when you draw that removal flag, you kind of want to put it on the biggest creature on the board, but Huey recognizing that his win condition here is to basically make sure Sam can't gain life, chip in for some few points of damage, and maybe draw some burn spells for the win.
Wow. This is crazy. Sam has drawn all lands.
Wow.
Yes, his hand is just lands. Like, Jensen is somehow keeping himself in the mix here with the Dusk Legion Dreadnought attacking every turn.
Ooh. That was a Glorifier of Dusk.
Really?
Yes, that was a fantastic draw. So now William swinging things around here.
Oh,
Jeez.
look at Jensen.
Look at this. So yeah, now yeah, I think yeah, Sam does have one more treasure to kind of draw out of it, but William drew a 4-4 flyer here.
This is a huge draw
Wow.
step for Jensen as he once again gets to attack. He also is sending in the Headstrong Brute now as well.
Yeah,
and look
might
at
as well.
Pardee. Is he double chumping here?
He's got to at least block one of these creatures. And he doesn't have any lifelink creatures anymore, so maybe he wants to just trade with the Pirate here. Wow, that's going to put Sam down to 2.
Sam falls down to 2 life.
Wow.
He's going to draw 2 cards this turn, and he needs to find something great.
He needs to find some nice ones.
Let's see what he's found. He found 2 spells.
Okay, so there are 2 lands in his hand.
Direfleet Hoarder.
He's attacking?
Wow, that other spell must have been something special.
Does he have a Bright Reprisal in his deck?
That is definitely the type of card that I would be thinking of. Let me take a quick look here. No.
What can this be?
It's Rallying Roar, so that will untap.
Wow, and did you see what William drew for the turn?
No.
Oh, he turned it around.
That's going
The
to do it.
Raptors.
Unbelievable. William Huey Jensen pulls off the win. It looked like he was so far behind. 3 Lightflinkers plus the Anointed Deacon plus the treasure map. He was just going to town drawing 2 cards a turn after he had stabilized.
Yeah, he was drawing multiple cards a turn. He drew the Deacon. He was attacking with lifelink tokens. And then William had the insight to be like, look, the only way I'm going to win is making sure you can't hit me with those lifelink tokens. I'm going to play my Pious Interdiction on your 1/1 token instead of your Anointed Deacon.
I'm going to use my Sure Strike to block your token.
Right.
Just
and give it first strike.
refusing to letting him gain life.
And I mean, William did have to draw 4 basically kind of perfect cards in a row, but he did. And he put himself in a position to come back in that spot. Wow, that was
insane.
That was incredible.
That was a great comeback there from Jensen. Started out ahead, went behind, made it back. We've got a lot more Magic action from the World Championship. We'll be back after these messages.